Hello and welcome to the Forces Sports Show, your weekly roundup of the best action and biggest stories from across the services, coming up in the next half an hour. Sliding into the record books, the Royal Navy Bobsleigh team clinch an inter-services double. Tasting victory for the first time. 9 Regiment RLC triumph in the Army Premiership Rugby Final. Staying on top, the RAF's men and the Army's women retain their inter-services hockey titles. We start with some Forces sporting history for the Royal Navy. They've won both the men's and women's bobsleigh titles together for the first time at the Inter-Services Championships. It was one of the highlights of the 2019 ice sports competition staged at Koenigsee. John Knighton reports from southern Germany.
History made for the first time, the Royal Navy's men and women inter-services bobsleigh champions, and it couldn't have been closer. At 41, John Jackson in his very final race produced a championship-winning 4 runs, just 14/100ths of a second faster than the RAF's Shan Stevens, and less than a second separating the top 4 bobs.
Most of this team were brand new only 3 weeks ago when we had our first week on ice together. So we've done a lot of training and a lot of work with the whole team in the last sort of 3 weeks. But that's what we've been building. It's not about having individuals, it's about building the team, and it's the team that won.
And in the women's event, equally tight. Bex Andrews doing just enough to secure the team win, despite the RAF's Mel Benfield, the fastest over the 4 runs. What's been the difference this year then?
We've spent a couple of years trying to build the team, like a bit of strength and depth. Sometimes we've had like one really good driver and the rest have been novice or just not enough brake women. But 3 exceptional drivers, 3 exceptionally strong, courageous, brave women, and here we are, team champion.
Still a bit of a shock, yeah, so it hasn't settled in yet.
So this is really groundbreaking stuff, isn't it, for the RAF women's bobsleigh team?
Our usual number 1 driver couldn't make it this year, so yeah, we're holding our number 1 position for individual.
And a great team competition as well.
Yeah, definitely. The Navy really pulled up their socks this year.
In Skeleton overnight, the RAF's Chelsea Ainsley had led the way, and she cemented her position in runs 3 and 4 to claim the top spot in her 3rd season with the team.
I'd say it's a higher level of track, a lot more driving, a lot of different bends, tricky corners, stuff like that.
But it was the Army women who secured the team title. Julia Bloomer came home second for them.
I think it's the consistency. So we had our Army champs here a couple of weeks ago, so the girls have had like almost an extra week on the track. We had a really good coach last week, so we had a Swedish coach that helped us out. So.
And on a track like this, it makes all the difference. It's so technical, isn't it, the Koenigsee track?
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a driver's track more than a starter's track. I've not been on this track for 15 years, so it was a bit of a flash from the past when we got here last week.
In the men's race, it was a big ask for the Army to claw back 12 years of success for the RAF in this competition, and they very nearly did it.
It did get away from us a little bit, but hopefully next year we'll be able to bring it back, and we are hunting them down. So, well, not necessarily slow, but sure, we are hunting them down. We are going to, and touch wood, next season we're going to be coming from again.
But a great effort from the RAF top sliders secured the title for a 13th year.
Difficult, but the team's done well, and we've got consistent runs, which is hopefully what's won us the competition.
Well, what a special day for Royal Navy Winter Sports. For the first time ever, inter-services bobsleigh champions in both men and women. And what a way to end these inter-services ice championships here at Koenigsee.
9 Regiment RLC have been crowned the Army's rugby champions for the first time in their history. Connor Hull scored all their points as they beat the Royal Welsh 16-15 in the final at Aldershot. The Royal Welsh have now featured in 4 of the last 6 Army Premiership rugby finals, and having come away empty-handed in their previous encounters, they must have hoped this was going to be their year when Corey McIntyre scrambled over to give them the lead with an unconverted try midway through the first half. Conditions weren't right for running rugby, but the Welsh outfit looked to put some width into their play, especially with the wind behind them. But 9 Regiment RLC did well not to let them break through once more. With worsening weather, Royal Welsh did add to their points tally on the stroke of half-time, courtesy of a penalty. Fullback Jamie Lang added 3 more to their score to put his side 8-0 up at the break. The second half saw 9 Regiment RLC inch their way back into the contest. Connor Hull slotted over a penalty to reduce the deficit. The fullback followed that with a second successful penalty from a similar position, cutting the lead to just 2 points. Then, with just 10 minutes of the game to go, the Buckley Barracks-based side sliced through the Welsh defence for a well-worked try. Hull sprinted clear before beating Lang to scamper in for a try that he would convert. 9 Regiment now led 13 points to 8. With Royal Welsh doing all they could to try and find a way past their opponent's defence, tempers briefly flared. After this impromptu episode of handbags, Craig Davis was deemed the player who lit the touch paper, and he was sent to the sin bin to simmer down. Hull was then on target with the resulting penalty to put his side out of reach. The Royal Welsh rumbled their way over for a try right at the death, Chris Budgeon rolling back the years and a final attempt at one last hurrah. With the conversion going over, 9 Regiment RLC rejoiced. They'd done just enough for victory, winning 16 points to 15.
It was a great team effort from the boys, absolute great effort, and then it's just what you said, a little bit of skill at the end just to beat the final person.
So Regiment, what's it like to come away with this trophy?
It's a great experience. The boys have been talking about it for a long time. We've read a lot of the history about it. It's been over 100 years ago in this competition, and it's just been a great experience to be a part of this now and actually take home the trophy.
A hard-fought win for 9 Regiment RLC as they enjoy being Army champions for the first time in the tournament's history. The Army's women and the RAF men remain the sides to beat in Forces hockey. Both teams retained their inter-services titles after the 3-day competition at HMS Temeraire in Portsmouth. John Knighton was there to see the action.
In the women's competition, both the Army and RAF had scored net 4-goal wins against the Navy. The Army 5-1 and the RAF, who won 4-0, Sarah Bracey scoring their 4th goal here. The RAF then scored first against the Army, who were without several top players. But, marshalled by the evergreen Paula Nicholas, they forced a quick response and an equaliser to level it at 1-1. And it stayed like that till late in the second half, when the RAF forced a break and were awarded a penalty. But Chloe James saw her spot shot brilliantly saved by Caitlin Jeffries. And minutes later there was more drama. Paula Nicholas went clean through from a loose ball, laying the pass for Lucy Valentine to slot home and give the Army the lead. Moments later the RAF thought they'd equalised, but the umpire judged the ball hadn't crossed the line. And despite more light blue pressure, the Army held on to win.
It was a much tougher game than usual. We've got a lot of younger players coming through, so about half and half from last year, the strength that we had from last year, and we've got a lot of fresh, new, young talent coming through. So at the minute we're trying to link it up, so for us, as a fresh team, that was absolutely brilliant to get that result.
In the senior men's tournament, the Army and Navy had shared the spoils in a 2-2 draw, and defending champions, the RAF, without their star man, England's Liam Sanford, had found the Navy a tough nut to crack in the first half. But after the break, they scored 3 times, Kyle Barnes getting the first. The Navy removed their goalkeeper to give them an extra outfield player. But further goals from Ben Kirk and then Tom Grimshaw at the end of the match made it 3-0, a little harsh on the Navy.
It was a good game today, got undone a little bit. We gambled at the end, 1-0 down, up against a well-drilled RAF team. It's a good game, lots of chances each way. I thought we were a bit unlucky. We'll come back, we've got a young squad, we'll come back again next year and we'll look to get a better result.
The Army took an early lead against the RAF before Kirk equalised, and Grimshaw then put the defending champions in front before half-time. The Army threatened the RAF on several occasions in the second half, but as they pushed for an equaliser, the RAF hit them on the break, and it was Barnes who got the decisive 3rd goal to give them a 4th straight inter-services title.
that. We've worked on being put under pressure in certain games, and I think that we capitalised on that, used that to gain the momentum and use that as a bit of a way to get ourselves back into the game, knowing that we have the ability in the team and have the fitness, even though we have played a second game today, to get ourselves back into the game and thankfully get the result.
In other matches, the Royal Navy and RAF Masters won the men's and women's titles, and the Under-25 Championship went to the Navy.
Stars of rugby union and rugby league are preparing to face each other on the pitch to raise money for two charities with military connections. The match at Gloucester's Kingsholm Stadium on the 30th of March is the second instalment in the Battle of the Codes event. Kath Brazier has more.
Getting his game face on. No stranger to playing in front of the shed at Kingsholm, Mike Tyndall will be captaining the South Rugby Union side at the end of this month.
The tough thing is that rugby union you're taught to bounce back up to your feet fast, whereas as a tackler you get out of the way of the tackler, the person you tackled, and then get back to your feet. Whereas in rugby league you've got to lie on them for as long as possible to slow the speed of the ball down. So I remember in the game we were actively bouncing off our feet and they were just bouncing up playing the ball, and then no one could get back 10, so then we were getting pinged for not being back 10. So yeah, it's always a challenge, but it's just being able to adapt.
Tyndall will be up against rugby league legend Keith Senior, in charge of the North.
He's squared on now.
There'll be no love lost on the pitch, but off it there's plenty of good-natured banter to be had.
It's a great concept, and I've been very privileged and lucky enough to play in a few games with the Rugby for Heroes boys, and obviously the league union rivalry, like we say, the core essentials and the core skills are exactly the same, but watching the two play the opposite code is like watching 7-year-olds on a rugby pitch.
It is alien.
It's absolutely unreal.
I grew up in a time and in a country where the two sports were very separate and weren't supportive at all of each other, but we've come to a time now where we're doing this sort of thing to bring the games together and enjoy some time playing again, getting the boots on and getting the rust off them and playing, but also enjoying the banter, creating relationships, and realising that both sports have something to offer each other.
In the previous game, we gave them a little too much in terms of that intricacies of the game. We spoke a little bit about how to coach earlier, but it's that what part of the games that are so different, and we need to exploit it. But no, it's we have learned it is. Like,
what I do enjoy is now that you are cheating and they are signing up rugby league players to play for them, which is an absolute disgrace. We'll let you have him. We'll let you have him.
Offer himself. You clearly got a target. No, we're really looking forward to the game, being part of it again, and I think there is a bit of a feeling that Union and League are clashing against each other. It's opportunities like this that really bring us together, and at the bottom base level, we're rugby players, we enjoy each other's company, and we like a bit of a battle on the field.
As a reminder of why they'll be putting their ex-professional bodies on the line come March the 30th, the guys played some touch rugby with the most recent transition course attendees. This is Rugby for Heroes' main focus, and all the money raised from the match will be split between them and Hull for Heroes, a charity helping house, educate and find employment for veterans.
The annual Help for Heroes Winter Games have taken place in Catterick. Teams of wounded, injured and sick serving personnel and veterans travelled from recovery centres all over the country to take part in events such as snow tubbing, stand-up paddleboard polo and the highlight of the games, dog sled racing. Hannah King watched the action.
It may be the first time an Alaskan Malamute has set foot on this Catterick football pitch. But they're not here to play football.
They're Alaskan Malamutes, which is the largest of the Nordic breeds. They're actually a freighting dog, which means, unlike to the more common Siberian Huskies, these can run quickly, but they will go for hours on end at a steady sort of 8-9 mile an hour pace. You're very much at the hands of the dog. Hopefully they'll stay focused, and there's lots of activity here, for them to hopefully, follow the chute and go down to the finish line.
Events are held throughout this week with teams competing from Plymouth, Tedworth, Colchester, Catterick and, for the first time this year, Wales.
Where are you from?
No matter the injury, all the events can be adapted. Everything is possible.
Brilliant.
Brilliant. Probably the best run today. Yeah, that was the best run.
And considering I didn't even want to do it this morning.
Why didn't you want to do it?
Because I was anxious because of my arm, because I couldn't control it. And then when Brian said, no, we'll do a tandem one, then I thought, right, we'll give it a go. So we'd give it a trial this morning, didn't we?
And we think we've just won it.
I think we motored down that track, I'm telling you.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
Being around all these dogs, it's just taking to a different place. You know, it's a really good for the mind and soul, if you like. And we've had a real good fun. And the dogs are so welcoming. I mean, you can hear them all.
So loving as well, isn't it?
Yeah. They're just like big teddy bears. It's great. It's lovely.
Yeah. Did summer games 2 years ago, and it's totally different games this time. So I'm happy with that. Really am happy.
I can sum it in 3 words because of this. Simple.
Camaraderie. Yeah, that's it.
An army athlete is trying to raise the profile of the Japanese martial art of Kudo. Captain Ashley Clues-Jones represented Great Britain in the sport at the World Championships last year. Amy Wiltshire joined him for a sparring session to learn more.
Not many people have heard of it, but Kudo is in fact becoming one of the fastest rising sports in the world today.
So I'll kick, just wrap it up with your arm, take a pause if you need to, grab hold of the seat.
Someone that knows all about that is Captain Ashley Clues-Jones. He's been involved with the sport for the last 5 years.
Kudo is something that is going to become more popular in the future, in my opinion, and that's mainly because it's a very practical martial art, very realistic, but at the same time it's got some safety components as well that allow you to practice and have a nice face on your day job, so to speak. It's something I have great passion to introduce in the military, and I think it's something that our fighting men and women would really be drawn towards if I can show it to them. Again?
It's seen as a safer version of judo and karate and has many similarities and uses protective clothing to allow hand techniques to the head without causing serious damage.
Kudo is a full contact martial arts. It's quite heavy, but at the same time, karate, in most days now, there's an awful lot of rules in place, so you can't lose a lot of the techniques that are actually taught in karate in competition. Judo, fabulous sport in its own right, but again, there are lots of limitations. What Kudo seeks is to allow you to use all fighting ranges of combat with the best compromise between efficacy and safety within the martial art as well.
Captain Ashley Clues-Jones was part of the Judo World Championships in Japan in December and hopes to continue to raise the profile of the sport within the British Army.
I think the British Army has fantastic fighting spirit, I really do, amongst all people in the world, really. And I think it is a great way to channel that competitive, I guess slightly aggressive energy into something that's actually really productive and can lead to, you know, great things for individuals and also something special in the way it represents the British Army.
I think I may need a few more lessons. I was not prepared for that.
And that is it for this week. Don't forget you can see all the action as we get it on forces.net and this show and more on YouTube. Next time we'll have rugby highlights as the Army's women take on Sweden. We'll leave you with some recent memorable moments from the team. Bye for now.